There are approximately 12 million people employed directly in the global oil and gas industry: engineers, drillers, project managers, technicians, welders, geologists, logistics coordinators, safety officers, people who spent years training for their roles, who built careers, mortgages, and families around a single industry. And right now, every single one of them is asking the same question: what happens to me? The energy transition is real. Governments around the world have committed to net zero targets. Investment in renewable energy surpassed investment in oil and gas for the first time in 2023. The headlines are loud and the pressure is mounting. But the honest answer to what actually happens to oil and gas workers, the one that rarely appears in policy documents or corporate sustainability reports, is far more complicated than either side of the debate is willing to admit. Today, we are going to look at this honestly. The jobs at risk, the skills that transfer, the timeline that nobody talks about, and what individuals working in this industry right now should actually be doing. To understand the scale of this challenge, you need to look beyond the headline number of 12 million direct jobs. When you include the indirect workforce, the people whose livelihoods depend on oil and gas without working directly in it, the number rises to somewhere between 40 and 50 million people globally. The supply chain that supports a single offshore platform includes hundreds of companies, catering contractors, engineering consultants, transport operators, chemical suppliers, equipment manufacturers, software developers, each one employing dozens or hundreds of people who never set foot on a rig, but whose income depends entirely on that rig operating. The geographic concentration makes this even more significant. In countries like Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, and Qatar, the oil and gas sector accounts for 30 to 60% of total government revenue. In Norway, oil funds the entire national pension system. In Nigeria, it represents over 90% of export earnings. In regions like Alberta in Canada and Aberdeen in Scotland, entire cities exist because of hydrocarbons. When people talk about the energy transition as though it is simply a matter of swapping one energy source for another, they are missing the human infrastructure that took over a century to build. The honest question is not whether the transition will happen. It will. The honest question is how fast, and whether the people employed in this industry will have enough time to adapt. Here is something important that gets lost in the noise around the energy transition. The world currently consumes approximately 100 million barrels of oil per day. Global natural gas demand has been rising, not falling, for the past decade. And despite everything, despite record investment in solar, wind, and batteries, fossil fuels still account for over 80% of the world's total energy consumption. This is not an argument against the transition. The transition is happening and it is necessary. But the timeline matters enormously for the people working in this industry. The International Energy Agency, one of the most respected bodies tracking global energy, projects that even under its most aggressive net zero scenario, meaningful oil demand decline does not begin until the late 2020s and remains a gradual process through the 2030s and 2040s. A more moderate projection, the one most energy economists consider realistic, suggests oil demand plateaus in the late 2020s and declines slowly from the 2030s onward, with natural gas remaining in the global energy mix well past 2050 as a transition fuel. What this means, practically, a petroleum engineer who is 35 years old today will likely still be working in a relevant industry when they are 45, possibly 55. The collapse of employment in oil and gas is not a single event. It is a slow, uneven contraction that will affect different roles, different regions, and different companies at completely different speeds. The workers most at risk are not the ones working today. They are the ones entering the industry now and planning careers that extend to 2045 and beyond. Understanding this timeline is the first step to making intelligent decisions about what comes next. not all oil and gas jobs face the same risk. The transition will eliminate certain roles much faster than others, and understanding which ones matters enormously. The most exposed roles are those tied directly to exploration and new field development. Exploration geologists, seismic survey specialists, and drilling engineers whose entire career is built around finding and opening new oil and gas reserves will face shrinking demand first, as the world moves toward using existing fields more efficiently rather than finding new ones. The front end of the oil and gas value chain contracts. Roles tied to coal, already in decline, face the most urgent threat. Coal mining and coal power generation employment is falling rapidly in most developed economies, and the trajectory is irreversible. Refining is another area of significant long-term risk. As electric vehicles replace combustion engines, demand for petrol and diesel falls. Refineries that process crude oil into transport fuels will face declining utilization over the coming decades. Onshore drilling in mature basins, the kind of work that happens in Texas, the North Sea, and parts of the Middle East where fields have been producing for decades, will see workforce reductions as operators prioritize efficiency over expansion. What is less at risk, and often overlooked, in these conversations is the enormous amount of work required simply to maintain, operate, and eventually decommission the infrastructure that already exists. The North Sea alone has over 500 platforms that will need to be decommissioned over the next 30 years. That is a $100 billion program of work requiring offshore engineers, project managers, HSE professionals, and logistics specialists, the same skills that built those platforms in the first place. In the Gulf, ADNOC and Saudi Aramco have both announced plans to maximize production from existing fields rather than reduce output, meaning the operations and maintenance workforce in that region faces less near-term disruption than counterparts in Europe or North America. Here is what the energy transition discourse almost never acknowledges. The skills required to build, operate, and maintain renewable energy infrastructure are, in many cases, identical to the skills used in oil and gas. Offshore wind platforms are engineered using the same principles as offshore oil platforms. The pile foundations, mooring systems, marine logistics, and subsea cable installations all draw directly from the technical knowledge built up over 60 years of offshore petroleum development. The companies building the world's largest offshore wind farms, Ørsted, Equinor, BP, Shell, are actively recruiting from the offshore oil and gas workforce, not despite their oil and gas background, because of it. Project controls managers, the professionals who manage cost, schedule, and risk on mega projects, are among the most transferable roles in the entire energy industry. A project controls engineer who has managed a billion-dollar offshore oil platform can apply exactly the same frameworks to a floating offshore wind project, a carbon capture facility, or a green hydrogen plant. Subsea engineers, HSE professionals, marine logistics coordinators, rotating equipment technicians. The technical depth built up in oil and gas is not made obsolete by the energy transition. It is needed to build the infrastructure that replaces it. The skills that transfer least easily are those tied to very specific oil and gas technology: reservoir simulation, formation evaluation, directional drilling. These are valuable skills, but they have limited application outside the petroleum sector. The message for people working in this industry is this: your value is not in what you know about oil. It is in how you think, how you manage complexity, and how you operate safely under pressure. Those capabilities have a future, regardless of what fuel is powering the world. The official response to the workforce challenge of the energy transition falls into two categories: what is being promised and what is actually happening. The promises are significant. The European Union's Green Deal includes a Just Transition Fund specifically designed to support workers in fossil fuel regions. The United States Inflation Reduction Act contains provisions for workforce training in clean energy. The UK government has announced a North Sea transition deal with explicit commitments to worker retraining. The reality is more uneven. Retraining programs exist, but they are consistently underfunded relative to the scale of the challenge. A program that retrains 500 offshore workers per year sounds meaningful until you realize there are 35,000 people working on North Sea platforms alone. The speed of corporate transition also varies enormously. European majors like BP, Shell, and Equinor have made aggressive public commitments to renewable investment and workforce diversification. Gulf state operators, ADNOC, Saudi Aramco, Qatar Energy, have been more measured, continuing to invest in oil and gas capacity while gradually adding renewable portfolios. For an individual worker, the most important insight is this: do not wait for your employer or your government to manage this transition for you. The organizations that thrive in transitions are not the ones that react. They are the ones that move first. So, what should someone working in oil and gas today actually do? 3 things. First, understand your transferability. Map your current skills against the roles being advertised in offshore wind, hydrogen, carbon capture, and LNG. You will likely find more overlap than you expect. LinkedIn is a useful tool for this. Search for offshore wind project roles and read the requirements. The language will be familiar. Second, add 1 credential in the clean energy space. It does not need to be a full degree. A certified course in offshore wind fundamentals, carbon capture technology, or energy transition management takes weeks, not years. GWO, the Global Wind Organization, offers safety certifications that are becoming a standard requirement for offshore wind work and are directly accessible to anyone with offshore oil and gas experience. Third, follow the money. Investment in offshore wind, green hydrogen, and carbon capture and storage is growing at rates that oil and gas investment has not seen in decades. The Gulf states are investing over $160 billion in clean energy projects over the next decade. Projects that will need project engineers, HSE managers, procurement specialists, and construction supervisors. The energy transition is not the end of a career in energy. For the people who move early, it is the beginning of a longer one. The industry is changing. The question is whether you change with it or wait until you have no choice. 12 million people work in oil and gas. Not one of them chose an industry they thought would disappear in their lifetime. The transition is real. The timeline is slower than the headlines suggest. The skills are more transferable than most people realize. And the window to move early, on your own terms, rather than someone else's, is still open. Understanding what is coming is the first step. If this raised questions you want us to explore further, whether that is specific roles, specific regions, or specific clean energy sectors, leave a comment below. We read everyone. Subscribe to Oil and Gas Explained for more videos like this. Next week, we are looking at something that has quietly become the most important piece of infrastructure in the global energy system: the LNG terminal. What it is, how it works, and why the countries that control them are holding enormous power right now. See you then.